Here's an interview from one of our past shows on Rock and Metal Revival. If you're interested in hearing full shows, go to our Facebook page and check out our list of affiliates for times and places where you can hear Rock and Metal Revival.
There is the title track to one of the most iconic metal albums ever, and that is from Heaven and Hell. Recently, both Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules were reissued with bonus material, and it is an honor for us to have on our program today from Black Sabbath, Mr. Tony-Iommi. Welcome to the show, Tony.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
It is great to have you. These are two albums that are two of my go-to albums for many, many years, and I hear a lot of rock radio stations playing tracks from both of them still to this day. I guess what my question is, Tony, what was the deciding factor to bring them back out into the spotlight with the live tracks and different mixes?
Well, I mean, to be honest, we've been doing it with all the stuff from, Black Sabbath, first album, Paranoid, and so we've gone on and we're going to go through till the end, really, I suppose. But those albums, I'm really proud of these. It's because it's a totally different. It's the end of the Aussie years into the Dio years, and so it's been great having them to come out. Because we've had so many coming out for the Aussie years for a long time now, and it's really great to have the Dio stuff coming out finally.
Well, first off, I want to say thanks for all the inspiration and the great music that you've given all of us. And being a guitar player, this is like the biggest honor I've ever had in my life. So,
thank you very much.
And now on this album, on the bonus tracks, you've got like a whole concert from Portland, Oregon. Now, did you guys record a lot of shows during these tours, or is that just one special one?
No, we didn't really. I mean, I had a lot of recordings basically off the desk that I'd have, and I used to have those mostly because I wanted to listen to how the shows run in or what I was playing, or just in general, really. I used to enjoy doing it, and I've got boxes of them here at home, of stuff that goes back years.
Nice.
Tony, I got to ask you, what was it like when you initially made the change from Ozzy to Ronnie? I mean, the two of them are the most iconic voices in metal, but very different in different ways.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's so different. Ozzy's Ozzy, and there'll never be another Ozzy. But when we swapped, the idea was, when Ozzy left, you couldn't bring another version of Ozzy in. It had to be somebody different, and Ronnie was so different, such a totally different approach to his singing, and a different voice, of course, more operatic, and it helped us in a lot of ways. We had to sort of start again. It inspired us. We had to get a different way of writing, because Ronnie sang, would be a totally different singer to us. When we'd be writing songs, I sort of know what Ozzy's going to go for, what way he's good for him or not. But when we had Ronnie, it was you just didn't know really. So it was trial and error. So it was a great challenge for us, and I think that period with Ronnie was very much a challenge, and it was great to work with.
Yeah, Ronnie was so versatile. I mean, do you think his so you're kind of saying his songwriting, his vocals and everything kind of helped take you guys to another level, because these albums are just, they still sound brand new, It did. I mean, it put us into a different way of writing, because we're at the unknown. I didn't know what sort of thing he might sing to it, where with Ozzy stuff I'd have an idea sort of where he'd go, because of all the years we've been together. But when Ronnie came in, it was a totally blank page, and let's see what's going to happen here. And of course, he'd go to places I wouldn't expect, and it'd inspire you then where to go next as we're putting the song together. I'd maybe have a riff, and then Ronnie'd sing on that, and I'd see how he'd sing, and then I'd know where to go for the next part, for the change. And we'd work together. We'd bounce ideas off each other. Ronnie might say, "Oh, can you just change that a bit?" And go, yeah, and change it. What about this? Yeah, I like that, yeah. And it just worked great as a team. Nice.
I know you also, at this time of these two albums, you brought in Vinny Appice at the time. So you had a very different drummer for you. That had to be kind of different, too, going from Bill Ward to Vinny. I mean, that had to be a change for you also.
It really did, and particularly for me, because I'd played with Bill in 2 or 3 years before Sabbath in a couple of different bands. So I'd only played with Bill for all those years. So it was a big shock for me to lose Bill. So when Vinny came in, he's a totally different style drummer to Bill. Bill played more behind the beat, where Vinny was, would be a bit more up front. And it's a bit more energetic sort of style, really, where Bill was more laid back. So it was different, and of course that then would change the writing as well. Like the Mob Rule, when Vinny got on board, when we started we'd done the Mob Rules album. That was a slightly different approach again then, because you got a different drummer, and it created a different vibe on it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now,
a great drummer. I mean, really great drummer.
For sure. Now, playing Sabbath tunes is kind of, for young musicians, that's what we grew up on, learning and playing. And lots of people have recorded cover versions of Sabbath songs. Do you have any favorite Dio era Sabbath song covers that you've heard?
Yeah, I've heard quite a lot, actually.
Oh, yeah.
But, I think the guy from Nightwish, the bass player, done a version of Neon Nights, which I thought was pretty good.
Nice.
And he's a good singer as well, the bass player from Nightwish.
Ah, cool.
Tony, when you look at the two eras of Sabbath with Ozzy and Ronnie, do you look at them as different entities, or just the ongoing history of Black Sabbath with different singers at different times? Because I've enjoyed all the vocalists that have been out in front of Sabbath, even Ian Gillan and Tony Martin. I mean, do you look at them as different times, different bands, or do you just look at them as one big part of the history of Sabbath?
Well, I suppose it is a part of the history of Sabbath, really, but they are different. Certainly from Ozzy to Ronnie was a completely different thing. But yeah, it is just a continuation, but a different version, really.
Okay. One of my favorite riffs that on one of these two albums is the riff in "Falling Off the Edge of the World," where it kicks into high gear.
Oh, yeah.
Now, do you remember how you guys... Because that song is just epic, And do you remember putting that song together? Any memories from that one?
Yeah, I sort of remember it. We had the quiet parts at the beginning, and I remember when we recorded that as well, because I got this violin sound on my guitar.
Yeah.
And it sounded like sounded like a violin. And a lot of people thought it was a violin.
I did.
So we used it on the first part of that, and then going into when we're actually writing the thing, we wanted the dynamics, and we wanted the soft beginning part, and Ronnie could sing this nice sort of melodic thing, and he was good at doing that, and then he'd get into this really aggressive voice as well then. So it was to give it the light and shade and bring it in with a bang, with that riff, with the main riff.
Cool.
Now, you released 4 albums with Ronnie, and were these the two that stuck out to you most? Were these the ones that you enjoyed most, Tony?
No. I really liked all the stuff we've done with Ronnie, and strangely enough, I listened to only a few weeks ago, I listened to The Devil You Know, which is the last album we did with Ronnie, and I really, really enjoyed that. And I've enjoyed when we were putting these together for the box set, the Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. I really enjoyed sitting down listening, because I can listen then as probably a fan would, because when you're actually involved in them, right from writing them, and then you're playing them on stage and everything, and then now being away from them for a long time, because we've been doing the Aussie stuff, and go back to listening to them, I can listen to them fresh and really, really enjoyed listening to them.
Oh, cool. Now, you've come up with, thousands and thousands and thousands of riffs for songs. How do you keep track of them? I mean, it's just got to be baffling to catalog so many.
Well, to be honest, I've tied myself in knots at the moment. Because I've got I had Brian May come over because he's one of my best friends, and he said, "Oh, can I have a listen to some stuff?" So I got some of my CDs out that I've got the riffs on, and there's just so many. There's like 500 or 600, 700 riffs. And I said, look, I'm not going to sit here playing. I said, take them. So I done him a copy of them. Take them home and have a listen. But there's so much stuff that I just can't even remember what's on them. I've got to go back and listen. When I get now to start working on them, once this pandemic's lifted and I can get my engineer to the house, I'm going to start putting them together, because there's so many that I remember were quite good. I mean, there's always going to be some that are not. Mm-hmm. But you put them down, and when I listen back to them, I'll decide whether to throw them out or to use them.
Ah.
But there is, I have got a lot of stuff.
Tony, I had the pleasure of meeting Ronnie at the Masters of Metal show in Chicago, and it is one of my fondest memories of ever working in radio. You've got to have a lot of fond memories of Ronnie. Is there any one that you'd like to share with the fans?
God, Ronnie was Ronnie, and he'd have his ups and downs, and he'd have his grumps and moans, but he's a lovely guy, really. I mean, we the last tour we did with Ronnie was real precious, and we had such a great time, and we really bonded. Over the last generation of the period with Ronnie was really close. Everybody was close, and Ronnie was such a really nice person. And what I liked about Ronnie, he gave everybody time. It was just remarkable. Before the show, he'd have people in his dressing room, because we'd have separate dressing rooms. He'd have people in there talking away and drinking and whatever. And he never warmed up or anything. He'd never done any kind of warming up procedure before went on stage. Wow. And he'd walk on stage, and he'd just unbelievable. His voice was, spot on. It was just amazing, really, how he could do that. But no, he's a really nice, caring character. I mean, he called me up, even when, just before he passed, he was on the phone to me, calling me from hospital. It was very sad, really. But he thought a lot of everybody. He really did, and he loved his fans.
Nice. Now, are there any tracks on either of these two releases that you think could have benefited from maybe adding some cowbell?
Could have benefited from what?
Adding some cowbell.
Adding some cowbell?
Yeah.
I never thought about it. Why? We
ask everybody that.
Oh dear! That was a bit of a strange question.
Very. Yeah. Hey, Tony, I got a question for you. Are you currently working on maybe another solo album? Is that maybe we see that somewhere down the road?
Well, that's what I was saying. Once here at the moment in England, there's a complete lockdown. You can't have anybody in your house. Ooh. So I was working with my engineer here before the lockdown. Mm-hmm. Of course, the lockdown come and you can't have anybody in. So once it lifts, I'm going to get him in, and then we're going to start putting some things together. Which out of all the riffs I've got, I'm going to start putting on. But again, I don't know what to use it as yet. Whether to use it, it's quite exciting because I'm not under any pressure to do anything. As far as I don't have to have another tour or this and that and the other. Mm-hmm. So I can. I'm going to just take my time, put ideas down, and decide whether I'm going to have a vocalist on them, who I'm going to have on them, or to have do it as film music or an instrumental album. I don't know yet. I really don't know, and I haven't put any kind of limit on it. I'm open for anything at the moment, to be fair. So it's quite exciting, really. I did do a project a few months ago, and with Nick Mason, who played drums, and
Oh.
we done